Okay, welcome back. We are going to be continuing the reading of Contents of the Dead Man's Pocket. Starting on page 132, the first paragraph, it reads, "He understood fully that he might actually be going to die. His arms, maintaining his balance on the ledge, were trembling steadily now. And it occurred to him that when all the force of a revelation that, if he fell, all he was ever going to have out of life he would then abruptly have had. Nothing, then, could ever be changed, and nothing more, no least experience or pleasure, could ever be added to his life. He wished, then, that he had not allowed his wife to go off by herself tonight, and on similar nights. He thought of all the evenings he had spent away from her, working, and he regretted them. He thought wonderingly of his fierce ambition and of the direction of his life had taken. He thought of the hours he'd spent by himself, filling the yellow sheet that had brought him out here. Contents of the dead man's pockets, he thought, with sudden fierce anger, a wasted life. He was simply not going to cling here till he slipped and fell. He told himself that now. There was one last thing he could try. He had been aware of it for some moments, refusing to think about it, but now he faced it. Kneeling here on the ledge, the fingertips of one hand pressed to the narrow strip of wood, he could, he knew, draw his other hand back a yard perhaps, fist clenched tight, doing it very slowly till he sensed the outer limit of balance. Then, as hard as he was able from the distance, he could drive his fist forward against the glass. If it broke, his fist smashing through, he was safe. He might cut himself badly, and probably would, but with his arm inside the room, he would be secure. But if the glass did not break, the rebound, flinging his arm back, would topple him off the ledge. He was certain of that. He tested his plan, the fingers of his left hand claw-like on the little stripping. He drew back his other fist until his body began teetering backward. But he had no leverage now. He could feel that there would be no force to his swing, and he moved his fist slowly forward till he rocked forward on his knees again and could sense that his swing would carry its greatest force. Glancing down, however, measuring the distance from his fist to the glass, he saw that it was less than 2 feet. It occurred to him that he could raise his arm over his head to bring it down against the glass. But experimenting in slow motion, he knew it would be an awkward blow without the force of a driving punch and not nearly enough to break the glass. Facing the window, he had to drive a blow from the shoulder. He knew now at a distance of less than 2 feet, and he did not know whether it would break through the heavy glass. It might. He could picture it happening. He could feel it in the nerves of his arm, and it might not. He could feel that too, feel his fist striking this glass and being instantaneously flung back by the unbreaking pain, feel the fingers of his other hand breaking loose, nails scraping along the casing as he fell. He waited, arm drawn back, fist balled, but in no hurry to strike. This pause, he knew, might be an extension of his life, and to live even a few seconds longer, he felt, even out here on this ledge in the night, was infinitely better than to die a moment earlier than he had to. His arm grew tired, and he brought it down and rested it. Then he knew that it was time to make the attempt. He could not kneel here hesitating indefinitely till he lost all courage to act, waiting till he slipped off the ledge. Again he drew back his arm, knowing this time that he would not bring it down till he struck, his elbow protruding over Lexington Avenue far below, the fingers of his other hand pressed down bloodlessly tight against the narrow stripping. He waited, feeling the sick tenseness and terrible excitement building. It grew and swelled toward the moment of action, his nerves tautening. He thought of Claire, just a wordless, yearning thought, and then drew his arm back just a bit more, fist so tight his fingers pained him, and knowing he was going to do it, then with full power, with every last scrap of strength he could bring to bear, he shot his arm forward toward the glass, and he said, "Claire!" He heard the sound, felt the blow, felt himself falling forward, and his hand closed on the living room curtains, the shards and fragments of glass showering onto the floor. And then, kneeling there on the ledge, an arm thrust onto the room up to the shoulder, he began picking away the protruding slivers and great wedges of glass from the window frame, tossing them into the rug, and as he grasped the edges of the empty window frame and climbed into his home, he was grinning in triumph. He did not lie down on the floor or run through the apartment as he had promised himself. Even in the first few moments, it seemed to him natural and normal that he should be where he was. He simply turned to his desk, pulled the crumpled yellow sheet from his pocket and laid it down where it had been, smoothing it out. Then he absently laid a pencil across it to weigh it down. He shook his head wonderingly and turned to walk toward the closet. There he got out his top coat and hat and, without waiting to put them on, opened the front door and stepped out to go find his wife. He turned to pull the door closed, and the warm air from the hall rushed through the narrow opening again, and he saw the yellow paper pencil flying, scooped off the desk, and, unimpeded by the glassless window, sail out into the night and out of his life. Tom Benicki burst into laughter and then closed the door behind him. So here we see the resolution, the conflict solved, maybe not in a way that we or Tom would have liked it. Once inside, Tom immediately takes the yellow paper out of his pocket and weighs it down with a pencil, goes to the closet, takes out his coat and hat, and immediately goes to the door, presumably to go meet Claire. And as he closes the door, he watches the current pick the paper up from the pencil and whisk it out of the open window frame again. Tom bursts into laughter and closes the door behind him. So, what a rapid resolution in that last paragraph. Not what we would expect. Going back a bit, just looking at all of his struggles, the internal and external. The climax that seemed to last a couple of pages, several paragraphs, the rising action, again, the conflict, and then back to the beginning. So thank you for listening, and we will continue in class.